recruiter calls me that same day and she was like, you're basically a shoo-in. Do you want to see if I can get you a little bit more? I said, yeah, see if you can get me a little bit more and I'll see if I can get everything together where I'm currently at to prepare to leave. And she was like, okay, cool. She was like, they want to do one more interview with you because of the fact that they want to have you on video. You've done phone calls this entire time, but they want to see you on video. Can you, arrange for that to happen? I said, sure. So I arranged for it to happen on a lunch break. I do a video call with them. When I hop on that video call, when they finally let me into the Zoom, their faces went from to when they seen that I was black.
Now we have another video with a young lady saying that racism is keeping her from getting IT jobs. And now this is definitely a interesting, nuanced topic. On one hand, there are things that you technically cannot prove that are happening in the interview process. Then you have the black people there who've been killed by layoffs. And then you have, I'm just going to go out there and say it because we've been seeing this stuff now with some of the Indians and some of my friends, they've seen this. And only I'm saying this because I've seen it firsthand myself. If I never dealt with it, I wouldn't say it. But we have been seeing this thing where one, undercutting either the rates, two, giving you a bad interview when they have to interview you and only hiring their friends and things like that. And sometimes these people don't even know how to do the job. But we have to go out here and prove ourselves so much to still not get roles. It's crazy. But I want to see what this young lady has to say about what's been going on in her job search. And I ain't gonna lie, before we hit play, like, the way that she do this, I think she's doing it intentionally, but she definitely creeped me out a little bit, the way she be looking and how she gonna be talking in this video. But let's get it.
Racism is pushing black people like myself out of IT jobs. 2 months ago, my recruiter called me and she was like, hey, I have a job. They bumped up the salary and that's why I called you because you're my Hail Mary. You get placed everywhere you interview for. I said, okay, cool. She was like, it's above what you're making currently. Are you willing to leave? I said, I'm not really willing to leave my job, but I'm gonna hear what they got going on because if it's worth it, I'll leave. She said, okay, cool. I interviewed with the HR department. They love me. They call her back immediately that day and say, hey, we want to have her interview with the IT manager and the whole IT support because she was so awesome on the call. So she calls me the same day and said, can you do it right now? I said, no, I cannot. And she was like, really, please, could you try to do it? I said, okay, but I'm not going to be on video. She said, okay, cool. We have a phone call. They asked me all the IT questions they want to ask me. They asked me behavioral questions. And then we just start kind of shooting it because they were like, we really like you. Like, what's some things you like to do? So I'm telling them about how, I have been rewatching Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And they were like, oh, like you like that show? I was like, I really love it. So we're just talking about the show. We're talking about a lot of things going on. And then after that, the call ends. My recruiter calls me that same day and she was like, you're basically a shoo-in. Do you want to see if I can get you a little bit more? I said, yeah, see if you can get me a little bit more. And I'll see if I can get everything together where I'm currently at to prepare to leave. And she was like, okay, cool. She was like, they want to do one more interview with you because of the fact that they want to have you on video. You've done phone calls this entire time, but they want to see you on video. Can you, arrange for that to happen? I said, sure. So I arranged for it to happen on a lunch break. I do a video call with them. When I hop on that video call, when they finally let me into the Zoom, their faces went from to when they seen that I was black. So
all right, hold on. Y'all know what sound we got to give them real quick.
I beg your pardon.
Because this is technically textbook discrimination. If I've already pretty much said I got the job, but you want to see me, then everything is different.
What do you mean by that?
So, let's keep going.
Then they started asking me they're not IT help desk questions. They're more security and networking. But I'm able to answer them because I've worked in every sector in IT that I'm able to answer them. But I'm also saying, hey, this is an IT help desk job. I just want to be sure because that falls into networking. Do you guys have a networking team? And they're like, yeah, we're just making sure. We went through your resume. We're just making sure. I'm like, okay, cool. Towards the end of the interview, one of the guys asked me, because mind you, all of them on the phone call are Asian. They say, your name's Olivia Key. I was like, yeah. They said, it's a very Asian name. I said, really? I've been told my last name is. And they were like, yeah, like Olivia Key, it's very Asian. I was like, oh, I've been told. That's why I did a DNA test. And I did have Asian background, but nobody in my family can point it. And they were like, oh, okay. After I get off that call, my recruiter calls me immediately and says, what happened? I was like, what are you talking?
That's interesting because now if they say, oh, this is what they said without saying it. We wanted to talk to you because we thought you was Asian. That's why they said you had an Asian name. It's similar to, let's say you have a black person and his name is Ken Masters or Kenneth Masters. Now, I'm being funny because Ken Masters from Street Fighter. But if you just don't talk to them or just looking at their resume by themselves, you don't know what they are. But I've seen and heard about similar stories like this where you get on and people were smiling and then they get the frowning, man. So you be like, bro, like this can't be it. Like, hang on, let me give y'all some more.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
She was like, they no longer want to press forward. They asked me to find somebody else. She was like, what happened? I said, I really can't point at what could have happened because I thought I did amazing. And she was like, yeah, you did do amazing. You went from being a shoo-in about to get this job to now they just don't want you. I was like, okay, cool. So she was like, do you know anybody? And just for me to test this theory that they wanted an Asian person, I hit up my Meet Me chat and I was like, hey, anybody in the DC area looking for a job? And somebody that I talked to often, he hit me up and he was like, yeah. And I was just like, oh, you'll be perfect because I think they're looking for an Asian person. So me and him LOL'd about it and I was like, no, I genuinely think they're looking for an Asian person. He only did 2 rounds of that interview and he started that job Monday. He hit me up this morning and said, you were right. I said, what do you mean? He was like, when I got there, he was like, they took me to lunch and everything. And he said, yeah, we interviewed like some crazy people. They weren't great like you. And he was like, really? He was like, my friend told me about this job. She interviewed for this job. And they were like, who? And they were like, Olivia Key. And they all were like, oh, like, yeah, she was great. But, we didn't feel she would be comfortable here. And he was like, how so? And he was like, well, and he just made that gesture. So he was like, they 100% wanted an Asian person.
Now, let's let it get to the end because I got some thoughts on this.
So
I think I need to make that on the thumbnail. Let me grab that real quick. Let's see if I can get that real quick. All right. Now, I have this term that I use a lot on here, complexion for the selection. But this is not the same thing as the situation with the IT manager, but in a sense, she could take the information that he gave her and file, I guess, what is like EOC complaint or whatever. Now, I don't know what would happen to him, but it is a shame because she was probably better than him. The fact that she knocked out her stuff and went to being a shoe-in just for them talking to her, and then they say, oh, we didn't think she'd be comfortable. That's discrimination. That's discrimination. And one thing about me, y'all know I'm going to bring in a client story. For y'all that's been following the show, I had a client I was telling you about that, where the company she was interviewing with really wanted her and this other applicant, so they opened up 2 recs and they told her pretty much she was a shoo-in. All they literally had to do was talk to the CISO. And talked to my client talked to the CISO and pretty much told me it went horrible based on their attitude and everything, dismissive of kind of the role I was doing. Like they didn't really care for the role to be open and all these other things. And I had got the rack of my brain and I'm like, did they, 1, either really don't care about that role, or 2, did that person sabotage it because of you because you are what you are and she's a black woman? And we were trying to ponder that. We don't know. It was so bad. She pretty much said, hey, I enjoyed talking to everybody but that person. She said, I do not want to be considered for any roles as long as they are a C-level exec. Now, there will be people that come into this comment section and say that, black people are crying or this or that, and they're not. The only thing black people have ever wanted when it comes to either being in school, going up for promotions, getting jobs, all this other stuff, they've only wanted equality, just to be treated fairly. Nobody cares if we lose out and we just weren't good. But if we know that we lost out to a subpar, mediocre person that's not better than us, like, because I have my stories of similar things happen too, that I wouldn't do just because it would make stuff uncomfortable for friends that I have that work at the company. Like, I would only talk about them things if they were to lead a company. But it's only just want to be fair. And that's it. Like, when we try to hire people, we try to do everything in fairness because we know how it feels not to get a fair shake at anything. Like, one of my favorite sports, boxing. Most of the black people, that really like boxing, not casuals, boxing fans, we don't pick people just off of the strength of they black. We go at like not X's and O's, but skill sets, intangibles, records, who you beat, what styles you beat, how you win. Like, the greatest example I give for this is Canelo versus Bud. I wasn't picking Bud just because, of course, he's super nice, but me thinking, hey, Canelo has been at 68 a long time. Canelo can also fight a good little bit. And if he's able to really land the perfect shot or the right shot on Bud, it could be an early night for him. Now, I was proven wrong, but I picked that with my brain, not with my heart. And so that's a simple way. Whereas you go on the flip side, like right now, anything if it has to do with like Mexicans versus a black person or anybody else that's non-black, they'll go for them just because versus saying like, no, this person is better. Like, we know they should win. Like, you know, it's just stuff like that. Like, right? Like, people just want fairness, but we can't get fairness. It sucks. And the other thing sucks because black people are normally not in the position of always hiring or having the company to run to do these things. And so a lot of times you're stuck like Chuck when you're dealing with situations like this. But I just found out about that creator when I was just searching through TikTok, seeing anything. Matter of fact, let me see if she had an update to this real quick. And her video almost hit 1 million people. Okay, so she didn't. So I'm gonna just cut that out. She didn't put a thing up there. So that just sucks for her. Her stuff will be in the description. But if y'all like this type of reactionary, pre-recorded stuff that I'm doing, please support. Join the Patreon. All this stuff is necessary so we can keep the channel growing and flourishing. And we'll be back to y'all this week. I got some good stuff that's coming out. Check out the episode I did with Juby. I got an episode with CISO, Nicole Darden Ford. And then Textual Talk will be back in rotation. But until next time, I'm out. Peace.